Anna, which case is Dr. Trent on for?
Dr. Trent?
We good to go, John?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
Thank you.
perfect. All right. Great. Good morning. Welcome, everyone. Downtown Action Committee meeting, May 12th, 2021. Looks like we have staff attending today, Anna Maria Ponte, John Roach, Rick Green, and Stacy and Hope, I believe, here as well. Pretty full house for the board members. Good morning, everyone. Why don't we please start, Hope, if we could, with call to order and roll call.
Roger Jansen,
Present.
Nick Mihelich, Nick Mihelich. We can't hear you, Nick. Brian Checkis,
Present.
Stephen Graham,
Present.
Michael Cuevas,
Present.
Brad McPherson,
Present.
Johnny Lee DeZone. Let the record reflect that Johnny Lee DeZone is not present. Gregory Gabriel.
Present.
And Mr. Chair, please, due to the absence of Ms. DeZone, Mr. Gabriel becomes a voting member.
Great. Thank you, Hope. And I guess either the Pledge of Allegiance first, or do you need to make the statement, the mayor's statement for the COVID procedure here?
I can do that first.
Thank you.
Pursuant to Mayor Keith A. James's Executive Order 2020-05, issued on April 2nd, 2020, the City of West Palm Beach's boards and committees are conducting meetings through media technology and have released the requirements to have a quorum of its members physically present at City Hall. On April 14, 2020, Mayor Keith A. James issued Executive Order number 2020-09, which specifically provides the rules of procedure for conducting city meetings, including requirements for quasi-judicial hearings. To ensure the ability for the public to continue to participate in this hearing, it is being streamed live and available for viewing in the City Commission chambers located at City Center, 401 Clematis Street, on the condition that social distancing be practiced. Additionally, for those wishing to access the meeting remotely, they are able to do so directly through the applicable Zoom webinar link, as well as the city's usual media channels, including WPB-TV 18, the city's website, and the city's YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter feeds. Anyone from the public who would like to provide comment on an agenda item is able to do so through the following. Number 1, in the City Center Flagwood Gallery. Number 2, dialing 561-320-6599 and leaving a voicemail not to exceed 3 minutes. Number 3, sending an email or video recording to publiccomment@wpb.org, or 4, completing the online public comment form at www.wpb.org/public comments. Those accessing the meeting directly through Zoom may also use the Q&A or raise hand features. Regardless of method, please be sure to indicate the agenda number or case number for which you are providing comment. Everyone providing testimony must have video capability and will need to be sworn in. The swearing in will occur at the start of each case on the agenda. If you're about to provide testimony and were not sworn in, please be sure to indicate such and be sworn in before offering your testimony. After the applicant presents their case, staff will provide a presentation, and then the public will have an opportunity to speak or have their comments read into the record from previously received correspondence. The board will then go into executive session. Prior to rendering a decision, the board will confirm no additional public comments have been received by staff. And finally, for the members of the board, it is emphasized that Florida sunshine laws are applicable, and you may not use the chat feature or any other form of individual communication to discuss matters with other board members, the applicant, or the general public during the meeting.
Perfect. Thank you. Someone like to lead us with the Pledge of Allegiance?
Can do that.
Oh, you can do. Okay.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag
of the
of the United States of America
and to the
and to the
republic
republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
liberty
liberty and
and
justice
justice for all.
for all.
Beautiful, thank you. Does anyone have the next item, the minutes from the April 14th hearing? Any comments from any of the board members or edits to make to that, or a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Okay, second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None? So moved. The minutes are approved from April 14th. And item 3, report from urban designer, Ms. Aponte.
Good morning, board members. We have a long agenda today, so I don't have anything to report. We can move on with the agenda.
Perfect. Thank you, Anna Maria. I'll do the same. So why don't we go ahead and move into item 5, declaration of ex parte communication. Go ahead and run down the list. Gregory, any ex parte?
Yes, Harvey did call me. We had a Zoom meeting. He basically reviewed the project with me, give me a better understanding because he explained to me that that project was here before and I didn't get a chance to see it. So he just wanted to give me a general understanding. So that would not prevent me from voting.
Okay,
Thank you.
perfect. Thanks. Brian, anything?
Yes, I have been in discussions with the representatives for all 3 cases, Mr. Oyer from Schutz and Bowen, and I discussed all the cases just for points of clarification. Those ex parte communications aren't going to have any impact on my decision today.
Excellent. Brad?
Only emails and scheduling, nothing substantive with Mr. Oyer's office, nothing further, nothing that would impact my ability to decide today.
Okay, thank you. Stephen?
I spoke with Mr. Oyer and representatives from related group on the first item regarding one flagler. They gave an overview of the proposal. Also spoke with Mr. Oyer on the 2 other cases that he has on the agenda today. Those discussions won't affect my ability to make an independent decision on this matter.
Perfect. Thank you. Michael?
Yes, I spoke with Harvey Oyer for about 30 minutes yesterday on all 3 cases and just did a quick refresher on one flagler, and we went over the other 2 cases. I will make my decisions today based on all the evidence that's provided, and it will not affect my decision-making ability.
Perfect. Thank you. Nick?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, good. Sorry, I had some tech problems earlier. I have had ex parte communications with Harvey Oyer team cases from that case. However, the other 2 we did discuss, and that'll have no bearing on my ability to vote impartially on these cases.
Perfect. Thanks, Nick. And I'm the same. I guess Harvey got to us also. I had a conversation with Harvey on all 3 cases, and none of that discussion was anything other than explanation. Won't affect my ability to judge today on today's testimony. Thank you. Section 6, public hearings. So anyone needing to be sworn in, or we'll do that at the beginning of each case. So why don't we go ahead and move into the first case today. Case number 19-08A. Request by Harvey Oyer, Schutz and Bowen on behalf of Related Urban Development. And if we could kindly have the applicant, please.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, just give me 1 minute. I'll bring everybody in for this case.
Perfect. Thanks, John.
Okay, that's everybody that I have.
Anyone who's intending to speak, please make sure that your cameras are on and that you turn on your speaker or your microphone for a minute and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Thank you.
Let's see. So is Harvey with us?
Mr. Oyer is not gonna be here,
Okay.
Mr. Chair, but Jordan Radlev is gonna do the presentation for this case.
Okay, now go ahead, Jordan.
Let me share real quick. Is everyone able to see my screen?
No,
Not yet.
Yeah.
No. Okay.
Here you go.
Yep, now we got it. Thank you.
Good. Great. Staff and board appreciate your time this morning. Obviously, we're here, Jordan Rathlev on behalf of the applicant related urban development to present DAC special plan review case number 1908A. I think many of you are obviously very familiar on the board who are here for the initial approval of this project. For those who are not, obviously the site that we're in discussion about is between Lakeview and Okeechobee, bordered by Chase and Flagler, right at the Middle Bridge in downtown West Palm Beach. In regards to the request today, we have a handful of requests that we view as some minor modifications to the initial site plan that was approved just over 2 years ago. I'm going to run through quickly what those requests are and then highlight them on the plans on the following couple of pages. So what we have requested today before the board is to remove the vehicular plaza and the primary valet operations that are located just east of the tower and relocate them slightly to the west under a covered area. We've shifted the main building entrance and lobby from the east side of the tower to the north side facing Lakeview. We've also shifted the curb cuts that were initially approved on Lakeview by FDOT and staff to the west. We've also revised the flow of traffic on the request of FDOT and staff for that primary drop-off at the building. FDOT has pre-approved that shift already. We've also shifted the retail location to a more prominent frontage on Lakeview to create a more active use along the Lakeview frontage. And we've also redesigned the large public space that sits to the east of the building and north of the existing church that continues to remain in place that will be designated as part of the final process here. If you can recall, in December 2019, we had a full approval by this board. The conditions of approval that were in place will remain with some revisions that are recommended by staff, and we are in agreement with staff on all the conditions of approval that are attached to this application. On the left-hand side of the slide here is the original approved plan. As you can see, there was a drop-off area to the east of the building. The main building entrance was where my cursor is here on the far northeast corner. This was a large drop-off area primarily for valet and Uber or Lyft. And then obviously there was a large reflecting pool and public space to the east. What we have done over the last year and a half is look at enhancing that drop-off to the west in order to make it fully covered underneath the building footprint. And again, this would only be now for Uber or Lyft drop-off. Valet is actually handled on the second floor of the garage. And then to the east of the main building entrance, now the redesign of the public open space, which has created a much more dynamic and flexible space. So the water feature reduced some, but it actually creates more green space and open space that can be utilized by building tenants, the church members, as well as the city as a whole. So we think this is much more flexible and open space, and the staff is in agreement that it actually offers a much more enhanced amenity for the downtown as a whole. So again, the primary changes, shifting that primary drop-off area west to the building footprint, and then enhancing and enlarging the public open space. The total square footage of the building, the height, everything from the second floor up remains relatively unchanged. We'll show some elevations where there's some slight modifications. Again, the majority of that is taking place just solely at the ground level, given the revisions to the drop-off area. In terms of traffic flow, again, the original plan had this drop-off to the east of the building. Valet, if you were going to drop your car off, would run in a small alley between the church and the building directly into the parking garage. And then if you were a visitor to the building, parking or tenant parking, you would down Chase into the parking garage. In the revised plan, the entrance into the parking garage has shifted slightly, but relatively remains unchanged. And the primary difference is that drop-off is now shifted to a little further west on Lakeview and directly under the building. And as you'll note, the prior plan when you're entering the drop-off area, you would come past on Lakeview to the west, enter, and then exit on the eastern portion of the drop-off. In conversations with staff and FDOT, that is now shifted, so you'll actually come in to the first curb cut and then exit on the further western portion. We think this enhances the traffic flow, but the original plan was based on FDOT comments. They've changed their mind, and staff and ourselves are in agreement on that change of traffic flow. And then you'll also notice this area now where the valet was primarily running cars before is purely pedestrian, so we think that's an enhanced improvement to the site plan as well. Again, just in a colored context plan, this public open space becomes much larger and much more flexible with the reduced water feature. There's also a seating area that's proposed as part of the potential restaurant on the eastern side of the office building as well. There's no one identified yet, but this would be the dedicated seating area for that operator. In terms of what that does for the view corridors, again, from the building looking east, you have a great public open space. One thing to note, the existing tree that remains on site today will stay as part of the revised plan. The original plan had that tree being removed, but we've redesigned to be able to incorporate that into the landscape plan. So not only is it a much more lush environment, you're able to retain the existing large tree on the middle of the property. Just another revised view of that active frontage on the eastern portion of the building now. Again, this was initially the building entrance, but this provides a much more active use fronting that public open space. A view of just the revised landscape area in front of the church continues to have its prominence, which is very important to staff and the historic preservation component of this project, but this continues to showcase the church at the front of the property in a very lush landscaped environment. And then in terms of the elevation, this is the north elevation where that drop-off area has shifted. So it becomes a very dramatic double height, fully covered drop-off experience for Uber and Lyft. We've also added a retail component to the northeast corner of the building. This before was just an elevator lobby, and the elevation of the glass came to grade with a kind of a living wall component, but this actually activates it much more with the retail presence on that northeast corner. But as you can see, everything up in the tower remains unchanged. On the south elevation, really remains unchanged. We've played with some of the coloring of the glass, but really living wall and everything above that shields the garage, and then the balance of the tower remains unchanged on the south elevation. On the east elevation, again, you see the restaurant has actually added some square footage on the second floor as well. So we've added some more active use on that eastern second floor, where before it was all garage, but everything again above that elevation to the top of the building remains unchanged, as well as the total height. And then from the west facade, very similar in terms of the loading dock entrance shifting slightly to the south, but the balance of the facade remains unchanged from the original approval in December of 2019. And then finally, the view looking west, which I think many of you are familiar with, but obviously you see the enhanced or smaller water feature, but enhanced public space, and the existing tree that's on the site today remaining in place, and the prominence of the church on the site remains unchanged in a very lush landscaped environment. So I will stop there for any questions, but I think, again, highlighting the primary differences from the approval in December of 19 remains the slight shift of the entrance to the west to be a fully covered experience, and the larger enhanced public open space to the east that is a great public amenity now, given it's a much more flexible and functional space, and had been previously designed with a very beautiful reflecting pool, but functionally was not a great use of the space in terms of activity and ability to program it into the future.
Okay, thank you, Jordan. So nice, concise comparison of previous and proposed. Thank you. Would staff like to comment now?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, staff has a presentation. If you're open to that, Jordan, thank you. Oh, no. Share my screen and do a brief presentation. As Mr. Ratliff already explained, the extent of the changes, the staff will focus on the recommendations that we are proposing, the conditions of approval. In general, the proposed changes are beneficial for the project, and staff supports all the changes as they will enhance the public realm and the relationship between the project and the public area. In terms of the vehicular circulation area, staff believes the changes are substantially beneficial, as the circulation for access to the ballet will now have direct access from Chase Street instead of forcing the cars coming from the west to go around the entire project to access the ballet area. So the circulation pattern on the second floor of the ballet will be beneficial for the traffic impact that project is generated in the area. In terms of the new drop-off area, staff also believes it's beneficial for the project as the new entrance is located directly on Lakeview Avenue. Before it was side-oriented towards the public open space. Now the pedestrian access is directly on Lakeview through the drop-off area. One of the conditions of approval that staff is proposing for this case is that the Lakeview Avenue drop-off and pickup area be only dedicated for the overlift or drop-off area and can never be used for ballet operation. Staff supports also the change in the circulation pattern to access the entrance and directed to the exit on the west. And the entire drop-off area has been approved and is consistent with the FDOT standards, so that will help the project. Regarding the public open space, staff also believes that the new design creates a better relationship between the public open space and the building. It's an enhanced quality instead of having the drop-off area separating the building itself from the public open space. Now we have a direct relationship between the restaurant and its outdoor seating with the park. So definitely an asset for the project and the community in general that will have a direct activation of the public open space. Regarding the open space, we have some conditions of approval that we recommended. First one is regarding the tree canopy. Staff is recommending the tree canopy calculation required for the public open space shall be revised to fully comply with the current requirements. The existing tree canopy may be counted as long as the canopy is within the design of the public open space, and we believe we can handle this as a staff level review after the approval from the board. Staff is also recommending additional shade trees to be provided along the interior pedestrian path to create a comfortable environment for pedestrians. And this is in reference to this particular area, the path that goes to the center of the open space. They have some shade trees along the church, but there's some areas that are totally exposed. We think it is important to provide some level of shade along that path so the pedestrians can comfortably stroll through the park. That will not affect the open area in the center and will maintain the integrity of the open space and provide additional comfort for pedestrians. Staff is also recommending that for the seating, at least 15% of the seating incorporate backrest. So at this point, they're proposed as like seating walls along the park that we think are appropriate, but we will recommend that at least 15% of the seating has some type of backrest to accommodate older residents. And we are also recommending that the restaurant patio area provide a direct access to the public open space. And this is a request to really engage the restaurant into the public open space. We see restaurant patrons finishing their dinner and walking directly into the parking space to enjoy the space. So this is an additional request that was not incorporated in the previous approval because the design was. Regarding the facade design and the active uses, staff also considers the changes are positive for the relationship between the building and the public realm. In the original approval, as Ms. Ratliff explained, the lobby was facing primarily the drop-off area, and just a small area was facing Lakeview, and the restaurant was tucked in further from Lakeview and with a partial view of the open space. The new design has the main entrance directly on Lakeview, creating a prominent entrance in the building directly on the street, on the Lakeview Avenue. And then the restaurant is fully addressing Lakeview Avenue and fully incorporated into the public open space, which is definitely a major asset to the public open space, as I mentioned. In addition, the retail space has been added on the corner of Lakeview and Chase, which we believe it's also a fully activated space that despite it's not going to have direct access from Lakeview, the access will be from Chase, it still will provide some activity on the corner and eyes on the street. With these comments, with these changes that are proposed, two of the original conditions of approval are no longer necessary. And the original approval included two conditions requiring additional glazing at the corner of Chase Street and Lakeview Avenue, and also at the manager office that was located previously along Lakeview Avenue. With the new design, that whole area where additional glazing was requested originally is now fully glazed and is going to have the retail space. So these two conditions are no longer necessary, and staff is recommending to remove. This is a picture of the facade. So you can see on the top, the original had the living walls that we had some conditions of approval for removal of the glazing. Now the new proposal is fully glass and storefront, so the conditions are not necessary any longer. In summary, the staff believes that the break complies with the special review standards that it was on the original, and the changes do not affect the compliance with this. It's a good project that will have a high impact in the area and will benefit the relationship between the public realm and the private space. Staff recommends approval of the proposed amendments based on the finding that the petition meets all the standards as indicated in section 9454D. Staff recommended that the conditions for approval included in the December 11, 2019 final order be amended, removing condition number 1 and 2 and maintaining the 3, 4, and 5 that are still applicable. Staff is recommending additional conditions of approval. Number 6, the Lakeview Avenue drop-off pickup area shall not be used for play operations. Number 7, that the tree canopy calculation required for the public open space shall be revised to fully comply with the current requirements. If the applicant desires to include a larger open space to comply with the public open space requirement, the whole space shall comply with the tree canopy and vegetated area requirements. An existing trees canopy can be counted as part of the requirement as long as the canopy is within the designated public open space. Number 8, we will recommending additional shade trees be provided along the interior pedestrian path to create a comfortable environment for pedestrians. Number 9, at least 15% of the seating within the public open space shall incorporate a backrest. Number 10, that the restaurant patio area shall provide direct access, pedestrian access to the public open space. Those are all the conditions that staff is recommending. The applicant is in agreement with these conditions, and that staff sent mailers to all the property owners around the project, 500 feet around the site. We received one letter of support from an adjacent residential property owner, and we have not received any additional communication from anyone. That concludes the staff presentation. I'm ready to answer any questions.
Great, thank you, Ana Maria. Very clear and precise. John, do we have anyone in the public to comment on this project?
Yeah, so we have the one email that was referenced, so I don't know if Hope can read that in. Also, I have one person here in the chambers that I will get situated for public comment, and then I have one person on Zoom who has indicated that they would like to speak as well. So Hope, I don't know if you can read the email first.
Okay, John, I cannot see that email, that particular email that you're speaking to about, rather.
John, are you talking about the letter that was sent? I can read that one. If you want to go ahead, I'll pull that one and I'll read it.
Yes, there was a letter of support that was emailed. I can read it if you need to.
Yeah,
ahead, John.
do you mind?
That line.
I don't have it in here.
All right, I'll read it. It says, "Hi, as an owner of an apartment in the Bristol, I am in receipt of the notice of approval for 1 Flagler Drive. I am writing this email in support of the well-designed new office building and adjoining landscaping. Our apartment looks north and will be facing this newly constructed office building, which is beautifully designed. I spoke in detail with Ana Maria and the planning department and understand that the scale of the lower parking deck and the vertical rectangular cubes scale back to a smaller square footage at the top floors of the building. The repetition of the church column spacing in the base of the parking garage is a nice design element and works well with the church design. This modern design will be an enhancement to both the streetscape as well as the skyline. I endorse related companies as a best-in-class developer. They are known for spectacular architecture and will keep the building and the neighborhood well-maintained, as well as adding amenities to the neighborhood. Best, Leslie Woolman Hemmel. And then I do have one person here in Flagler Gallery. Just one second.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sharon Sigren, and I'm the chairman of the First Church of Christ Scientist in West Palm Beach. And I'm here to say that we're working closely with Related to keep our strategic objectives aligned. Those being, one, that the church would be designated a landmark. Two, the church would have an endowment that would preserve it. And three, the church would continue to operate in the future as a Christian Science church. So we are working with Related in every way that would assure the city of West Palm Beach that the Christian Science church will be viable and growing in the future. And we're supportive of Related and all of the good that they've done for the city of West Palm Beach. Their efforts and their investment has been exemplary. And we look forward to a positive future relationship. And that's my public comment. Thank you.
Attorney Weinger, she was not sworn in.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I have one person on Zoom, Bill Nugent. Just one second, I will bring him in.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Bill, you'll just need to unmute, start your camera.
Bill, will you raise your right hand and let me know when you're ready?
If it suffices and in the interest of time, when everybody else swore in, I raised my right hand, but if you need to swear me in again, that's fine.
Yeah, do you swear from the testimony you're going to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Good morning. Bill Nugent, 1707 Florida Avenue, the Grandview Heights Historic Neighborhood. I just wanted to take a minute and in support of these changes and generally in support of this project. When I step out my front door, I look at the horizon and I currently see the Bristol, Esperante, Phipps, and I will be able to see this project as well. And I am in support of this. I do appreciate the changes that I've seen made. While I think that a long rectangular reflecting pool is interesting and can be pretty, I think the changes in this open space area provide more capacity and flexibility for a more people-centric ability to be able to use the space so that people can actually participate in that space in greater and more fulsome ways. Along the same people-centric line of thought, I also have an appreciation for the retail that's been added to the street level. Anything that we can do like that to activate the street and allow people to participate in the project, in the building, I think is a positive. And finally, and personally, in some ways, maybe most importantly, I served on the city's Historic Preservation Board for a long time, and I have a very strong appreciation for the fact that Christ Scientist is finally becoming landmarked, and we can feel a lot better about it being safe and protected in what appears to be in perpetuity. So with all those things in mind, and probably some more that I'm forgetting right now, I hope everybody will support this pretty non-controversial issue that's before you this morning. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Bill. John, was there anyone else?
Yep, sorry, I got one more.
Oh, good.
Indicated, they're named Dr. Trent. They'll just need to unmute and start their camera.
Hello?
Dr. Trent, we see your living room. Any way you can turn it around to see your face?
I don't know how to do that. How do I, oh, the camera. There we are.
There, got it, perfect.
Boy, oh boy. Anyway, I just want to say, I'm Dr. Trent. Oh, I was sworn in. Do I have to re-swear?
Yeah, do you swear from the testimony you're going to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Dr. Trent. I live at Trump Plaza, very high up. And the building, I was at all the meetings at the town hall during the last several years. And again, the other proposal was a 5-story building that only would have had a sidewalk around it. And this building, preserving green space, increasing green space, keeping the church, and most importantly, the building, which is gorgeous, is designed by the architect, which I think most people don't know, that designed the Freedom Tower, One World Trade Center in New York, and everything else there. This building will bring in tremendous amount of money for the town. It's gorgeous. It's at the foot of the Royal Palm Bridge leading to Palm Beach. This building will be the pinnacle of the entire East Coast of Florida, as the World Trade Center is up in New York. It's kind of like connecting the two, as I've told friends, where Flagler and Vanderbilt joined the railroad over 100 years ago. This building will be absolutely the most beautiful beacon of light on the shores of Florida, and I can't wait for it to be built. And instead of having just a 5-story building with a sidewalk, again, this will have increased people space. I think it's a good idea with the reducing the pond, but it's nice to have that. And one last topic, where you're putting the valet, already look just 2 blocks west. You have Restoration Hardware, which is packed all day, every day, and there is absolutely no problem getting out of that building on Lakeview, which actually at that point is then Okeechobee. So I think the improvement is excellent. It will work. It's been proven with Restoration Hardware building not to create one problem whatsoever with traffic flow. And one last comment, Related has put so much into West Palm Beach when others wouldn't. They are a fabulous company, and Harvey Oyer and Jonathan Cooper have really done a magnificent job here. I'm very happy to live here, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Trent, for your time. It sounds like you're in support.
You can guarantee that.
Okay. Thanks. John, is there anyone else from the public to comment?
No one else has indicated their interest in public comment, no.
Okay, good. Perfect. Thanks, everyone, for that commentary. We'll close then the public discussion portion of this case and move on to any comments of the board members to either the applicant or the staff. And let's go down the row again. Gregory, any questions or comments?
Really no major questions, just comments. I believe this is a great project. I love the new elevation that they did. It's really make it more appealing, and the scale of the glass facade is really much better design. And the open space, the park, it's really well thought out. I think the applicant did a good job, and also apparently they did comply with staff recommendation, and I know there are additional recommendations from staff as well, but that's really all my comments. I don't really have any objection to the project. It's really well put together. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay. Thanks, Gregory. Brian?
Mr. Chair, I think in reviewing the changes and hearing Mr. Rathlib's presentation, really good design decisions to pull that pickup drop off under the building and unify the building and the open space. That one view looking out towards the Intracoastal, I mean, that kind of says it all. Instead of overlooking a motor court, I think these are really smart design changes, and it'll make for a better project, and it's going to circulate better. The one thing I just want to caution in terms of staff and asking for the trees to extend all the way out to Flagler to that corner. I think that corner is going to be really important to have that visual kind of very clean lines coming in across the bridge. And the first thing you see is that reflecting pool. I understand that the connectivity and having the pedestrians covered in canopy, but I think in that one corner, because that reflecting pool gets smaller, it's that much more important to highlight it. And I think with pulling back the canopy a little bit, you get that sun on it, reflecting. It's really going to punch if we don't bury it under trees. We have to be sensitive to that corner, I think, and then introduce all the canopy as you start heading west into the public space. So I know Ray and Anna Maria are going to work it through with Jordan. I just want to make sure that we don't lose sight of this, really nice vision, unifying vision, as that reflecting pool gets a little smaller. Jordan, you had really nice new elevations. I wanted to ask about the glazing. It looks like the top floor, the glazing got stretched out a little bit. Is that interior affected as well, or is it just the skin?
On the second floor?
Top floor. You didn't even talk about it, but your elevations show, the old elevation shows it a little tighter on top. And then in the new elevation, it's stretched out a little bit. And I don't know if that was just on, if that's just the skin, or was there an interior design change as well?
The core of the building shifted, but the elevation is really more exterior. The total square footage of the building has not changed. I'm just trying to pull this back up for you. But the primary change was the core shifted from the center to the far west side in order to enhance the view corridors and just the overall efficiency of the floor plates.
Yeah, and you didn't speak to it, but it actually looks better now than it did on the original design with that stretch. It gives the top of the building a little more of a cap, and it looks a little more well-defined, I think. It's a nice design, great project, 100% supportive. Good moves, good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Brad, do you have any comments?
Nothing much, but I just want to commend the folks involved and say, I think great project, great. I liked it last time. I like the changes being proposed today, so I'm in support.
All right, thanks. Stephen, any comments?
Again, just reiterate some of the other board members. I really like the improvements at that pedestrian level. I think it's really going to open up that space and activate it even more. So I'm glad to see the changes that have been brought forward.
All right, thanks. Michael?
Yeah, not to sound like a broken record, but all the changes are very well thought out, and I think are going to enhance the project and the overall public realm, the pedestrian experience, the rideshare drop off, restaurant space. Everything is an improvement. So I don't know how anyone can argue with the changes, and I support all the staff recommendations. Before Brian said anything, I wanted to particularly comment on the shade trees. It is a pretty big area. I know they're going to keep the one ficus tree, but I do think that's going to help. Obviously, as it's gotten warmer, you really need shade in the summertime on a big open space. But I do agree that if they can put some thought about maybe giving a little distance to that reflecting pool, I do think that makes sense. So great project. I cannot wait to see a shovel go in the ground. Fully support it.
Good, thanks, Michael. Nick, any comments?
Where's my microphone stopped? Video stopped.
We can hear you.
Oh, you can hear me. Somehow I lost video. This is the case I've recused myself and filed the voter conflict form, so
okay.
No comment.
Right. Yep. So noted, thank you. Yeah, and I'll just, reiterate all the positive comments, and thanks again for the applicant working diligently with staff to hash out all these issues and present a really great solution. So thanks. My only other comment, and maybe this is more of a general question to staff, and maybe not this particular property, but I think if there's any opportunities ever with this type of project to incorporate some historic plaques or other descriptions of the history of West Palm Beach, especially seeing that this is in conjunction with what will be a historic landmark building, it might be interesting as a design solution to incorporate that and incorporate in some of the pathways and benches, but just a thought. Other than that, full support, and thank you to the applicant. If there's no other comments, would someone like to make a motion?
Mr. Chair, motion to approve.
Okay, noted. A second?
Second.
You guys
Motion
can
is-
see the findings.
Ms. Winger, I have a question. When I read it in, do I renumber the conditions now that condition 1 and 2 have been removed? Do I renumber them as I read them in?
I mean, you can just make reference to them. You don't have to necessarily read each condition, but conditions 3 through X listed on page whatever of the staff report.
Yeah, I was going to read through them, but I was going to renumber them because 1 and 2 have been stricken. So I just wouldn't want to make a mistake if I renumber them, but granting the
Either way.
I move that the Downtown Action Committee approve the amendment to the special review for DAC case number 19-08A as listed in the staff report dated May 12th, 2021. The following conditions are recommended. Renumbered 1, public bike parking shall be distributed along street frontages and public open space. Renumbered 2, sidewalk elevation shall be maintained across all curb cuts. Renumbered 3, enhanced pedestrian crossings shall be provided at all existing pedestrian crossings. Possibility of pedestrian crossings at Lakeview Avenue and Chase Street and Okeechobee Boulevard and Chase Street shall be studied and implemented if warranted. Renumbered 4, Lakeview Avenue drop-off pickup area shall not be used for valet operations. Renumbered number 5, the tree canopy calculation required for the public open space shall be revised to fully comply with the current requirement. If the applicant desires to include a larger open space to comply with the public open space requirement, the whole space shall comply with the tree canopy and vegetated area requirements. Existing tree canopy may be counted as part of the requirement as long as the canopy is within the designated public open space area. Renumbered number 6, additional shade trees shall be provided along the interior pedestrian path to create a comfortable environment for pedestrians. Renumbered number 7, at least 15% of the seating shall incorporate backrests. Renumbered number 8, restaurant patio areas shall provide direct pedestrian access to the public open space. The motion is based upon a determination that the testimony presented at this hearing, along with the application submitted, constitute a preponderance of competent substantial evidence. The board hereby makes findings of fact that the special review requested satisfies all of the criteria of the City of West Palm Beach zoning and land development regulations, Article 2, Section 9452, parens B, parens 2.
Okay, I think you got it. And I think, was there a second for that?
Second.
Okay. There we go. Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Nope, none. So the motion's unanimous. Thank you to the applicant and appreciate all your efforts.
Thank you all.
Okay, thank you. So moving on to the next case, new case 21-01, again, a request by Harvey Orr, Schutz and Brown on behalf of West Palm Beach Wrestling Interest LP for special review. So if we could kindly have the applicant's presentation.
I'll have to swear everyone in again.
Oh, and swear, yeah, please be sworn in.
So if you intend to speak on this item, please turn on your camera and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Which one do you want me to use? This one? Crap, I can't see it. I don't know if anybody can see my screen.
Yes.
Thank you. Morning.
Good morning.
My name is Beatrice Hernandez with MSA Architects, address at 8950 Southwest 74th Court, Miami, Florida 33156. And I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Cypress Realty, to present the second phase of what was originally approved 7 years ago as a multi-building project. It's now called, this phase is now called CLO. We've been working with staff for the last few months on the revised design of this project, and we're happy to be here today.
Beatrice, I'm sorry, there's a lot of background noise on your side. No?
Of course there is, because my fan does this. This is what I'm doing. Give me 1 second, I'm going to switch to my iPad. My apologies.
And also one quick comment, Beatrice. Are you able to change your PowerPoint to a presentation view?
I'm so sorry.
No problem.
Is that anybody? Help me. How do I mute? Is that any better?
Yes.
Thank you. And you can see my screen.
Yes.
Okay.
You just need to make it a full presentation mode, and that will be okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Why is this not the presentation mode? Right click there.
Hey, Beatrice, would you like
Do
me
you have
to
double screen?
instead, and you could just prompt me to change the slides?
Oh my God, that would be great. But I actually made some changes to the PowerPoint. So what you have is not what I have.
Oh,
What do I do here?
well, if you have a
Can you
different.
try hitting end slideshow and then go back to slideshow and then go from beginning?
Yes.
Maybe she has double screen or 3 screens.
I do.
Okay.
So you have to open the presentation in full presentation mode before sharing.
Ah, okay, that's why. All right, let me stop sharing then. I thought I had this right. What?
Go to PowerPoint.
Here? I just don't know why it's not coming up. The full presentation. That's the problem. I just don't know why.
The full presentation.
Huh?
Anna, the other alternative, Beatrice, the other alternative is, Anna, you could present your
Yes.
PowerPoint, and then
Thank
Beatrice
you.
talk through it as well as you're going through your slides.
Or Roger, do you want to share her presentation even if it's not updated?
Roger.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's changed, Busy, but I'll share mine, which is the one that was sent to Anna Maria.
I'll email it to you right now.
Okay.
I thought we were all set up here. What?
In your email, you can just drag that.
I am.
Yeah, multiple screens cause a problem with the Zoom, especially when you try screen sharing.
Yeah, and usually somebody else handles this. So I'm not good at it. So I'm just a talker. So again, I'm so sorry to the board. My apologies. I know you guys have a full agenda today. I sent it to you, Roger.
Okay, I'm waiting for it. Nothing yet.
¿Salió o no salió?
Mr. Chair, under unfinished business, I was going to bring up the notion of going back to live meetings next month. I don't know if you want to have that discussion now while we're waiting.
If we can.
Christ.
If that's the preference of the board, we're polling all of our different boards. And I think there's going to be a resumption of live meetings. As you may know, the commission has been having them for several months now. So the poll that John Roach sent out to the board members, I think, showed the majority of the DAC members interested in coming back. So if you're all in agreement, we will do that in June.
I had no problem with that. I think I responded, and maybe if everyone else responded and it's a majority, I'll leave it up to the city and the powers that be.
Okay.
Rick, your timing was kind of fortuitous there.
I'm trying to kill some time here at the same time.
Play elevator music.
I didn't receive the PowerPoint yet. I'm wondering if the file is too large to be emailed. Now I still can share the version that we.
Just share the version that you have. It's not that much different. Go ahead. Just share it.
Yeah, I would suggest either doing that route and you can note any changes, or we could table this and do the next project and come back later.
No, it's fine. I just share it.
Do you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. Please
How
proceed.
easy.
Thank you.
Look how easy that is. Jesus Christ. Okay, I won't start over, but hi again. So let me just recap a little bit about the history of the project. So if you go to the next slide, Roger. We were before, this is the location of the site, which is essentially on Dixie between 8th and essentially 6th. And the second basically phase of the Lofton project that we came before you about 7 years ago. So next slide. In 2014, we had gotten basically a multi-building project approved where phase 1 was completed with 259 units and about 4,000 square feet of retail. And a phase 2, which is what is before you here today, with 204 units and about also 4,000 square feet of retail, which never got built. The project has subsequently been sold, still remains Lofton Place, but we're here before you today to amend the site plan to modify phase 2 to allow for additional residential units, approximately 60 units for a total of 264 units. Reduce the retail slightly from 4,000 to 3,400, and the approval of TDRs, which will be before you in June, DAC hearing of about 28,000 square feet. The reason for the increase in the density, obviously, as I'm sure you all know, from a development point of view, 200 units is a little small to build a project. So we needed to increase the density for the economy of scale and to the 264 units that we're presenting before you here today. So the next slide, please. And this is the site plan that we are proposing. Not much different than what we had originally gotten approved from a footprint perspective. Some of the internal components has changed slightly. Originally, there was a big picture. There was a pedestrian bridge, which was previously approved in the initial phase. That has not changed. We've relocated some of the public open space components, and you can see here the project sort of in context with the Lofton Place apartments. This project stands on its own as it relates to open space calculations, parking, the setbacks, FAR, so on and so forth. So this project will be reviewed on its own, not with the phase 1 project. So taking you from the north to the south and left on your page, which would be the north on 8th Street, we have essentially a wrap project. We have the garage, which is on top of the page, which is setback, an additional setback that's required for the project that's adjacent to residential. So we have a nice buffer from the parking garage to the property line. And then on the flip side along Dixie is where we lined our product. We have ground floor residential stoops on the north end. We have retail facing Dixie, and the amenity wraps the south corner of the north building. Internal to that, we have a private courtyard, which satisfies some of our private open space requirements. And I think your packet shows all those calculations. On the corner of North Dixie and Eucalyptus, we have outdoor public open space components where we have our bike racks, we have concrete seat walls for public seating, and then obviously the pedestrian bridge, which is really the link for the parking garage to the residential units on the south building. As you cross over Eucalyptus, again, you have ground floor residential stoops that connect directly to the sidewalk. And as you wrap Dixie, our leasing and amenity is sort of connected through the pool courtyard out to the street. And we have street parking, our street trees, wide sidewalks with the retail now on the south end of the building, opening up to the public courtyard that we're proposing between the existing Lofton Place and our building. One thing to note, and we've been working with staff regarding the design of this extended public courtyard, although we're just highlighting the area that corresponds to our satisfying the section of the code for public open space, we're looking at it as sort of unifying what was originally designed in front of the Lofton, extending all the way south and across Dixie. So we looked at it holistically. We, of course, need to work with the adjacent property owner to make some subtle adjustments to the design. One is the fence that separates the phase 1 with our new phase. We want to pull that fence back to open up the public open space. And we provided some additional concrete seawalls. I keep saying seawalls, seat walls, similar to the ones on the corner of Dixie and Eucalyptus. So this is essentially the ground floor site plan for our project. So next slide. This just highlights what we got approved back in 2014 and where we are now. You can see it's a very similar. There's slight subtle nuances based on the new style of architecture that we've created. So, but very subtle changes in the footprint, really not much of a huge alteration. Next slide. And this here identifies a little bit, and I think it's mentioned in Anna Maria's staff report regarding that courtyard I just discussed with you all. There is some discussion in moving the transformer pads that we have shown sort of up against the retail and our building on the south end. And we're working with staff to potentially show the alternative relocation of the transformers tucked toward the back end between the courtyard of our pool and the public space to be able to screen that and use the retail breakout of that open space a little bit better. But we're working with FP&L and we'll work with staff to be able to enhance that public open space. So this is just a diagram showing you what a proposed location may be looking like. Next phase. This just shows you the additional public open spaces that we're providing along North Dixie and our private and semi-public spaces. The pink shows the public open space. The green spaces show the semi, as well as the private open space that we're providing. And these are just exhibits showing you the tree canopy and vegetated areas that we have to satisfy those requirements as well. Next slide. In addition to the ground floor open space that we're providing, we're also providing the screening of the rooftop garage, which we're doing in a combination of the trellis screening as well as providing an amenity area similar to what we did at phase 1. In this case, we have like a recreational deck and some sort of outdoor fitness, whether it's pickleball or tennis. I think it's pickleball. Next slide. Here we show you, and I think this is all in your packet, sort of the elevations that show you some of the materials, the colors that we're bringing into the project. One interesting thing that we're doing to differentiate this project is this vinyl mural graphic or vinyl wrap that we're proposing to put on the building to bring a little bit of color pop and distinction in the project. You know, in the previous design, it was a little bit more of like an Art Deco feel. I think here we're going a little bit more contemporary because we wanted to differentiate this project from the phase 1 deal. We think this is kind of a really cool sort of look for the downtown. And this just continues to show you some of the elevations. This is the east elevation of the parking garage, street elevation along Eucalyptus. You can see how we scale the building down from 8 to 4 or 5 stories. For the parking facility. Next slide. Again, continuing on the elevation and the vernacular that we're doing. It's a series of contemporary frames that sort of break up the scale of the building. The roof line is varying in height. We're going to do a little bit more of that based on staff's recommendations to vary the roof line a little bit more. A series of floor-to-ceiling glass at the tops of our buildings or at feature locations for entries and lobbies and such. And then the ground floor frames that create the stoop concept to create a little bit more of a pedestrian scale. And again, the south elevation and the east elevation of the south building, very similar to the north, just a slightly different. And we're bringing in some different color patterns. It's kind of a navy blue with a light gray, and then kind of a wood look with scoring to bring a little bit more of a texture onto the building. These are our street elevations, which show the building in context with scale and massing for the project. Similar here, showing it from the south building, showing the parking garage and our 8-story building, sort of how it transitions down to the 2-story residential. And these are our renderings that really depict what you just saw in the 2D elevations. We think this is a very dramatic, elegant, modern, contemporary building. You can see how the vinyl wraps are going to be sort of a pop or an accent on the building that, you know, the design is still in flux in terms of what that final look is going to be like, but we like the pattern and the direction that this design is taking. You can see the parking garage in the background on the left side of your rendering, and sort of the street level uses that are happening along Dixie. This is a view from basically the center between the north and south building, sort of identifying how the pedestrian bridge connects over and between the two buildings with the garage in the background. We feel that's kind of a nice component, almost like a gateway down this street. I know another condition that was placed to us by staff is to do a little bit more interesting design on the bridge, which we have no objection to doing. You can see here the leasing corner and the floor-to-ceiling glass that we're providing for the retail and amenity spaces. This is a view looking from south, the southern end of the project looking north, with the existing Lofton Place project in context with our new building. You can see where that open space, public open space, is sort of going to extend beyond and in front of the existing building and tie into ours. And these are just more enlargements of the street level perspectives of the stoops and the retail and the amenity spaces. You can see these concrete seat walls that we're placing on the corners. And I think some of our idea is that each of these seat walls would have their own sort of design and identity. They could either be the wood cladding here or the wood look, in some other areas, we're going to bring some of the color down into the space of the seat walls. So next view. This here is, so this here is at the center, showing a little bit more zoomed in version of the bridge and the corner elements with the seat walls and the residential stoops in the background with the leasing on the left side. And this is the larger public courtyard that we've created. Again, I brought some color down into the plaza, trees with canopies and some color and texture, but a place where people really can sort of wander and gather through, and then the retail sort of break out into the space. We don't know exactly what that retail space is going to be, but it could be a cafe, it could be something that sort of engages with this public space that we've created here. And then finally, this is a view down sort of the middle of our project, showing the step down from the residential building to our garage down to the adjacent two-story building. So you can see the architecture of the garage, which I know is always a big topic of conversation. We've really taken great effort to bring it to very similar in style and proportions and massings to the residential building, to make it feel more like a residential building than a garage. And we feel it scales down very nicely with the adjacent residential building. And you can see that there's enough space between that building and our garage to be able to landscape with canopy trees and shrubs and ground floor cover. And so we just want to touch on some of the elements under which we are here under review by you, the board. And we feel that with all of these components, we've complied with the relationships of the buildings to the site, the circulation and traffic flow, our building design, the public realm, which is the multiple public open spaces that we've provided. And if you go on to the next slide. So that really concludes my presentation, and hopefully we will be seeking approval by yourselves, and we are also in agreement with staff's recommendation for approval. And I thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Beatrice. Staff, would you like to continue with your presentation, please?
Sure. Roger, if you don't mind stopping your share screen. Okay, so as in the previous project also, the applicant already explained the details of the project, so I'm going to focus my attention to the recommendations that staff is presenting for the approval from the board. In general, the project complies with the 4 special review standards as the original project did. The increase in square footage does not create a negative impact on the project, and I think it will be beneficial to have some additional units in the area. The scale of the project is compatible in height and massing with the surrounding buildings. The garage is set back 15 feet from the property line, as Beatrice mentioned. It's more than the 5 minimum are required for floors 1 to 3, so that provides additional buffer to existing residential buildings on the east side of the parking garage, which was one of the staff concerns on the initial proposal. I think the revised project addressed that concern and scales down the building very well towards existing residential. The garage is treated with a punch window pattern to follow the overall building design, and landscape is proposed to screen the garage. They're proposing some stopper as shade trees along the garage and all the sides to screen it. The staff recommends for this that planting along the facade to be enhanced with additional sable palms and a vine to grow on the facade wall. And at the ground level, we're recommending that the proposed louvers that are right now depicted on the elevations be replaced with some decorative grills instead of the more utilitarian louvers. This recommendation is based on what has the results of the existing phase 1, and the picture on the screen shows the parking. It's actually the parking garage with the first floor loading dock of the phase 1. You can see the landscape is of course grown already, but it does a very, very good job at screening the garage and making it reducing the negative impact that a garage and non-active uses can have in the surrounding area. You can see here the shade trees, vines growing on the wall that give that additional kind of attractive element to the garage, and they work very well. So we recommend this phase 2 do the same treatment and enhance that landscape to accomplish the same thing. So we're hoping in a few years, once the project is completed and the landscape is installed and established for a few years, we can see that garage also having the same impact or reducing the negative impact of the non-active use. Regarding the street level, the project proposes commercial uses and building amenities along Dixie Highway with ground floor walk-up units along the south side of Eucalyptus Street and 8th Street, and the parking garage along the north side of Eucalyptus and 8th Street. The staff believes that the walk-up units are a great addition. As you can see in the screen, the picture of the phase 1, it definitely provides the residential character to the neighborhood. It's a great amenity for the surrounding area, but also it's very attractive units that provide direct access from the street and fully activate the ground floor. That is not does not happen when the units do not have the walk-ups. They are designed on the ground floor, but not as a walk-up. So this is definitely an asset for the neighborhood. It complements substantially the residential character of Providencia Park and has worked very well in phase 1. So we are very happy that the phase 2 is incorporating this typology in the residential ground level and continue that design. You can see even in the new design, some of the windows on the ground floor are even larger. So the interaction with the public realm is going to be increased. So that's very beneficial for the public realm. Regarding the building design, staff has a series of recommendations that we discussed with the applicant and they agree. It's more to study certain elements to enhance the quality of the design. The first one is regarding the possibility to study the possibility to increase the height of the corner elements. You can see in the corners, the design already has some type of eyebrow that wraps from the top and goes down. Staff is recommending maybe that element just increase a little bit more and enhance to kind of provide some hierarchy to the roof line of the building. It has some variations, but maybe some additional can be done. We are recommending that is basically a work that the applicant will do. The architect in charge of the design will study the possibilities to be sure that it is a better option and provides a benefit for the overall design of the building. We are also recommending some additional studies of the bridge. Right now, it has a series of just windows with just color trim on the top. We are suggesting that the applicant may look at other options to see if maybe the dark brown element could be incorporated or some variation on the windows or something that provides additional enhancement to the design of the bridge. Again, these are recommendations for the architect to study and determine what can be done to enhance the quality of the design. We're not specifically proposing a particular thing. It's more like for them to have the ability to study and refine the design as it moves forward. The same recommendation goes for the ground floor along Dixie Highway to enhance the pedestrian quality of the building and ensure the success of the retail and commercial spaces at the ground floor. This building has large windows, but you just want to be sure that the quality of the pedestrian realm along the quality of the facade on the ground floor along Dixie reflects the commercial space that it will have. We would like the applicant to sit down and study in more detail the location of the retail spaces versus the amenity areas that they will be able to locate in there to really highlight what are the commercial spaces on the corridor to be sure that they are successful. And this recommendation is born based on some situation that we have with an existing building on the core of the downtown. This is the Soleil building. It has some commercial spaces on Quadro Boulevard, but you can see it does not really clearly read as commercial spaces. So we think it's an opportunity to enhance the quality of that design to really highlight the commercial nature of that area of the building and be sure or kind of provide all the design elements to ensure that the commercial activity is attracted to leasing those spaces. This is the existing design for that building, and you can compare it with another ground floor of the downtown that has commercial spaces. And the ground floor, this one has been a more successful commercial space. So That's why we would like the applicant to deliver further and refine the quality of the design at ground level to ensure that the commercial spaces that are proposed in there are, the commercial uses are attracted to occupying those spaces. Regarding the public realm, the project is, as I mentioned before, a substantial improvement to the area. The walk-up units will enhance the quality of the pedestrian realm. The applicant is proposing planting areas along the right-of-way with shade trees around the entire project, enhance bike racks and seating and benches and shade trees. So that's a big enhancement for the area that will complement the work what was done with the already built phase 1. Regarding the public open space, the project is in compliance with the minimum dimensions required for the public open space and the semi-public and the private open space. The numbers are included in the submittal. So in terms of the dimension and the location, staff agrees with all the locations and the dimensions of those open spaces. However, the large open space, it's considering that it's a very important open space due to its location adjacent to the existing public open space for the phase 1. The staff would like to have the opportunity to have more time with the applicant to work on the details of the design for that open space. Due to some issues, Beatrice already mentioned the location of an existing fence. You can see in the picture for the Lofting phase 1 public open space. We'd like to have the opportunity to work with the existing owner of the building to remove that fence and integrate the existing public open space with the proposed public open space and make it a larger area that will be definitely an asset for the projects and the community. There's also an issue with the need to locate some FPL transformers on that area. So the proposal that the applicant presented originally is not acceptable because it does not meet the standards for the public open space. It will block the interaction between the proposed retail or commercial space on the corner of the building with the public open space, and it will be detrimental for the use of the space. So we will need some time to work with the applicant on relocating those transformers and get FPL approval and consent for that relocation. So that's the reason why staff is recommend that the details of the design of the public open space come back to the board for review once all these issues are resolved. In general, as I say at the beginning, the project complies with the special review and standards. We think the project is going to be a good addition to the neighborhood. When Lofting phase 1 was built, it was well received by the community. I think they will be happy to see the phase 2 moving ahead and again, moving with enhancing the quality of the area around the North Dixie Highway that needs some additional investment. The staff, based on that, staff recommends approval for the special review based on the findings that the petition meets the standards as indicated in section 9454B2. The staff recommends the following conditions of approval. 1, the additional landscape shall be proposed to screen the garage facade. Additional landscape may include sago palms and other palms between the trees and a vine, such as a creeping fig, to grow on the garage facade wall. The sidewalk elevation shall be maintained across the driveways. Number 3, the building design shall be modified as follows. Study the possibility of increasing the height of the corner elements to provide some variation on the roof line. Refine the design of the pedestrian bridge to make it a neighborhood into feature. C, study the ground floor treatment of the Dixie Highway facade to enhance the pedestrian quality of the building and ensure success of the retail commercial space on the ground floor. D, additional landscape shall be installed adjacent to the mechanical room located along Dixie Highway on the south building. And E, replace the ground floor louvers in the garage for decorative grills. Number 4, the final design of the 3 public open spaces shall be brought back to the Downtown Action Committee for final approval. The staff recommends the following improvements. Special consideration shall be made to the integration of the south public open space with existing Lofting Place public open space, and the FPL transformer shall be relocated. There were mailers sent to all the property owners 500 feet around the project site, and staff at this point has not received any communication. That concludes staff presentation. I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you. Very nice presentation. John, do we have anyone from the public that has requested to comment on this?
Mr. Chair, no one's indicated interest in public comment. Oh, never mind. Someone just raised their hand. Hold on just one second.
Okay, thanks.
I will bring Thomas into the meeting. Just 1 second. Okay, Thomas, you just need to unmute. There you go. And you'll need to be sworn in.
Yes.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
I'm a property owner manager on 8th Street on the other side of Dixie, and parking is already a big issue for us. And I'm happy that we're having this new development. But if we're promoting more retail on Dixie, does the parking garage have enough space for also retail people to pull into so they don't go on 8th Street, or because we're already having issues with parking? And if they're asking for an increase of the 60 units, is there going to be adequate parking for all the individuals plus any additional guests, so that there's no additional parking, on-street parking in the adjoining neighborhood?
Roger, you're muted.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Thomas, thanks for the question. Staff, do you have any response for that regarding the parking issues?
Yeah, the project complies with the parking requirements based on the code. They have actually more parking that is required. They are providing more than the 1 space per unit as is required by the code. They have guest parking for the residential units and parking for the retail areas. They're also adding on-street parking along Eucalyptus, and they have some additional parking spaces that will add along Dixie Highway as on-street parking. I believe there are 8 spaces in total that they add in, 4 on the south side and 4 on the north side. Correct me if I'm wrong.
That's correct. We're doing 8 along North Dixie and then another 6 on Eucalyptus.
Mm-hmm. Can I add an additional comment regarding the parking?
Please.
What we notice on 8th Street is we can't pull out onto 8th Street because of the parking on Dixie. There's legal parking spaces there, but whenever vehicles there, we cannot see any oncoming traffic. So most of our residents, they actually go down Railroad and come out onto Dixie on another way. So my only recommendation is just for staff, if maybe they could look on the other side of Dixie and see how the parking spots that were there actually really impede the sight vision of getting onto the street. And, if applicable, maybe not give as many spaces in front on Dixie, even though I'm a fan for having more parking on the retail, but just so it's safe for everyone to pull out. Thank you very much for allowing me the comments.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I guess staff can follow up on that. I'm sure there's all kinds of guidelines with DOT and sightlines and engineering aspects of the sidelines. So if they could just follow up with that, that would be great.
We do.
Okay, thanks, Thomas. John, anyone else?
No one else has indicated interest, no.
Okay, then we'll close the public discussion portion of case 2101 and move on to comments from any board members for staff or the applicant. Want to start? Nick, you want to start this one?
Sure, thank you. Well, thanks for bringing this project through. I think it looks like a great looking project. I do like the architecture generally. Just a few comments, kind of zooming in down on the ground plane on Dixie, where you have your parallel parking spaces. It seems like there's landscaping proposed along the back of curb where those oak trees are planted. And I think that looks like a conflict in terms of all the other nice pictures, Anna Maria, you showed, where you have, the oak tree trunks and sort of a small planter, and then the ability for passenger car doors, rear car doors to open on that hardscape side, get out of your vehicle and walk to the building, as opposed to stepping foot in some low shrubs or ground cover or what appeared like a crosshatch of landscaping. So I just wanted to see about that, if that was indeed the case, or if I'm reading that wrong and there's that crosshatching is hardscape or pavers or something.
I for sure know the planting area on Eucalyptus is grass. I will have to check for the one on Dixie, but comment well taken. We have been designing those ones in several areas, so we are providing in general for little walkways between the parking space and the sidewalk, and we are being sure that when there's planting next to the on-street parking, the portion next to the curb is ground cover, and then if there are any bushes, they are towards the sidewalk. So that's the design that we are using in other areas. I can definitely verify that for this project and be sure that that's the way it is designed.
Can I jump in, Anna? If you were to look at the enlarged site plans that we have on SP1 and SP2, you'll see that at each of the parallel spaces along Dixie Highway, there are connections from the wide sidewalk out to those parking spaces to allow for that, so they're not walking through the landscape. And then there's green strips where the shrubs and or the trees will be located. I think in the overall plan, it was hard to see, but if you look at SP1 and SP2, you'll see it.
Okay, great. So then that's accommodated for
Yes,
nice
sir.
ease of pedestrian. Great. And then the next comment is for the bridge. And I guess I've just been sort of debating in my mind a little bit about just the treatment of that. And my understanding is that maybe it's sort of, simplified, left to be consistent with the architecture so it blends in. And I guess I'm just going through my mind is that really maybe what you do, or do you put some of that pop and jazz and color and sort of maybe accentuate it a little bit? It just looked a little plain to me, but again, I can see it both ways, just sort of bringing that up as a comment maybe to consider as the details go through. Next comment is that pass-through area between the Lofton and this new building. In that one rendering, it showed that kind of space. I did see the landscaping, but then it seemed like a sort of a pretty substantial blank area of the building that was very tall and vertical, and maybe just a little emphasis on that space or some sensitivity to the experience and the context there would be my comment. And then the last comment would be in terms of that differentiation of commercial space on the streetscape. And I've noticed this with other buildings and some of the photos you showed too, when that scale of that architecture or ground floor or height is the same as all your residential units above, I guess the layman would look and say, well, it just looks like an apartment building to me, or an apartment door. And I would ask, was there consideration, or is there consideration where typically in urban context, that ground floor is taller than the rest of the floors above, and it has that grandiose sort of nature of walking down the streetscape and knowing that commercial is on the ground floor and smaller, residential units are above. So those would be my comments, but great looking project. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Nick. Michael, you any comments?
Yeah, thank you. It looks like a great project. I just wanted to go back to parking quickly, and also in relation to bike storage or bike parking. We've had I'm just doing some math here. There's 264 units. I believe there's 352 parking spaces, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't know the breakdown of 1-bedroom versus 2-bedroom units, but if we just assume there'd be 1 parking space per unit, that would be, there'd still be 88 parking spaces in excess of that. I don't know how much of that is for retail or guest parking. How many parking spaces in excess of the minimums does this product have? What would be the minimum?
I can answer that if you'd like, Anna, at the table. Yes.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
Sure. The required, or the minimum required, would be 318 spaces.
Okay, so you're I
So
guess
we're
34, is that correct? More than the minimum?
correct.
Okay.
Correct.
How much is for retail? Just do we have a
7.
number?
Yes, 7 of those spaces are for the retail and 15 are for guests. So there's
Okay.
22 spaces open to
Okay.
guests and retail, plus the surface parking,
Okay.
parallel spaces.
Okay, because I know there's not a lot of retail, so you don't need a lot dedicated just for retail. Okay, so bike storage. How big is your bike storage? I know we just had a project come through last month that had in excess of 200 units, and they had the minimum space allocated for bike storage, which I believe ended up being about 28 spaces for bike storage, which I just just curious in comparison, how big or how many bike spaces do you have dedicated for the project?
We have about 45,
Okay.
excluding what we have outside for the public. So that's in the bike storage, and that is located in the north building where the parking garage, upper left corner, is where the bike room is located.
Okay, so that sounds like it's probably also the minimum number of bike parking spaces.
The minimum is 42 and we have 44.
Okay, so pretty close to the minimum. Yeah, I just think that, I mean, I know I said this last time, that staff really needs to look at this relationship between bike storage and number of units. I think the ratio is something like 1 bike storage space to 8 parking spaces. And I know a bike storage space takes a whole lot less space than a parking space. You know, this is a building that is adjacent to the downtown. I think I gave a testimonial from my building last time, and right in the downtown we have 304 units, and they had to expand their bike storage recently, and we have over 100 bicycles now, so it's like, you know, 1 bicycle per 3 units, and that space is now overflowing. So if given the opportunity, people will, you know, store their bikes, and I think it encourages people to bicycle, you know, use bikes, and you know, obviously this project is, you know, right here in the downtown, so I know a lot of people will choose to have a bicycle if they have the opportunity, and lugging it to your apartment and, you know, putting it in your apartment is it's not ideal. So I guess I just would say, if there is a way to potentially expand your bike storage to accommodate a few more bicycles, I think you'll find very quickly that 44 spaces is going to be jam packed, and people, you know, may not choose to buy a bicycle, may not choose to use a bicycle if there's no place for them to put it. So that's my only comment. I think it looks like a great project. I just would really like to see staff to maybe think about changing those minimums, and would like maybe you as the developer to consider trying to figure out a way to add some more bike storage.
Yeah. Good thoughts. Thanks, Michael. Stephen, any comments?
Look, just a couple. It looks like a good project. Obviously, a good continuation of the previous approval. Do like addition of the ground floor walk-up unit in that neighborhood residential street setting. I think, you know, seen that on some other projects recently. I think that's a really good addition to, you know, to creating that neighborhood feel in those areas where you can't otherwise activate a use. So you've seen it on the Broadstone, and I think that's been very successful in that area. And, you know, it's nice to see that coming into some other projects. One question I had, there was the condition around additional landscaping for the parking garage. My question relates more to, or maybe it's just a comment, and it might already be in the detail in the plan. The existing parking garage at the Loftons, quite a tall, I think 6-story parking garage. Just wondering what sort of attention to screening that garage has been given for the pool deck and the courtyard area of the new phase of development. Other than that, you know, I just think it's a good project and a good improvement for the area.
Thanks, Stephen.
I can
Oh, yeah.
speak to that if that's okay.
Yeah, please do. Thanks.
Yeah, Stephen. Yeah. So you're talking about in the internal courtyard. What's the, I guess it would be the, yeah, that face of the garage. We're looking at larger screening material to go in there to kind of help mitigate some of that eyesore and kind of create more of an intimate pedestrian environment in there. So we're looking at a variety of materials to kind of blend together to create that effect. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Brad, you have any comments?
No comments. Again, I support the project and done with it. So no further comments from me.
All right, perfect. Thanks. Brian?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. Really good project. I'm very happy that Mr. Salur is bringing this through and closing it out. Very happy to see that it's in competent hands. Quick question. It's for Busy and Roger, the architects. The vinyl wrap that you're proposing, that's going to be on the north side at the garage and on the west side facing Dixie. What's your experience with the wear and tear or the weathering of that material?
Actually, we just actually did it on the district flats. I don't know if you've seen that project in West Palm. It's actually a really good. I mean, they put it on cars who are outside driving under the weather. This application obviously is made is not for the cars, but is made for the concrete sub-base from what we understand, and it has a good warranty. It weathers really well. Better than paint sometimes.
Well, and that's where I'm leading to. If the vinyl wrap requires any maintenance over time, will the ownership commit to having that refurbished or replaced as needed when it starts to, get a little light or, bleached out, if that happens? And that's why I'm asking the architects to see, in terms of over time, should there be some kind of maintenance commitment that's going to be refurbished and brought back to its original approved appearance? That's it. Other than that, everything else reads well. This project is a continuation of the Lofton One. I walk past it. I'm right behind your project actually, and the ground floor residential interface is incredible. So the continuation of that is really important for this neighborhood. Everything's wonderful about the project. I just want to make sure that over time we're not going to have something that may be a problem, that there's a commitment to have that, sort of refurbished or replaced.
Thanks, Brian. My comments, I think in general, I think it's in terms of the site planning, massing, that the relationship to the streets and neighborhoods, it's a great project. Just a few comments to continue on Brian's thoughts and staff's recommendations. Number one, maybe for staff and for the architect, I think the notion of the vertical components from the sidewalk to the top work well at the garage building, the transition to the residential neighborhood in terms of massing and delineation. I think along Dixie, it might be more successful if you could treat the base of the building a little bit differently in terms of the articulation there. And that might answer some of staff's concerns about the commercial components and ways to treat that differently from the residential components. So I just think you should study some of that composition in terms of the base versus all of the other vertical components. But I think that's in the recommendation already. Number two would be, this is going to the color and the wraps. And Brian, I don't have any experience with the wraps. I mean, I think they're great on boats and cars. I'm not a fan of it on a building. I have the same concern with a long-term degradation of the vinyls in the sun. So and just not a fan of that. And then the colors too, I understand what you're doing, trying to differentiate this project from the other. I like the simplicity of the original Lofton structure. So maybe consider, lighter blue, maybe in the pastels even. I think it will be more compatible with this environment. I think the same thing with the vinyls. There's always a fear the darker paints have a tendency to fade out faster. And I think in terms of maintenance, you'll be better off. And I think the building will be more elegant with more subtle contrast in the colors. And again, so the question on the wood with the scoring, is that intended just to be a contrast or to emulate wood? And if so, again, I would just go with a lighter color. I think you're going to be better off in the long run. That's that. And same comments on the bridge. I would just continue to work with staff. It could be a really fabulous element, and I think it could be a highlight, or maybe just want to treat it as something that disappears and blends into the building, but I'll let you all work on the design with that. And the last comment, was there any consideration on the south elevations of the building? They seem to be very blank vertical walls. Is there any way to articulate those facades, especially on the southern block?
We could definitely work with staff
Yeah.
to embellish that a bit more if the board deems it necessary.
So Anna Maria, my only consideration would be to add on your recommendations 3F to restudy the color scheme and the wraps and maybe come up with some alternative solutions and work with staff there. But other than that, I think it's a great project. So thank you for all your effort, and thanks for working with staff on all of the issues that were under discussion. So any other comments?
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Oh, yes, sir.
There's the Laura Development. I just wanted to ask for one. We agree with the conditions and the staff have put on, and thank you for your comments. They were all great comments. The only request we have is a slight modification to the condition asking us to come back to DAC on the public open space design. We're absolutely in unison with what staff want to do with that space. We have no arguments with that, but we're under the control of FPL on the one hand, and the agreement of Lofton on removal of their fence and a couple of other things on the other. So it would be great if we could just coordinate that and get it approved through staff rather than come back, especially as we're not really fighting the issue. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds reasonable to me. Anna Maria, is that something that would be agreeable with staff?
Yeah, we don't have a problem about that. We can work very well with them, and we know they want the same that we do. So we can work with the design team to make sure that the public open space meets the required standards and work at staff level instead of bring it back to the board.
Mr. Chair, is it Mr. Salur's intention to strike condition 4?
I don't have the numbers in front of me. Anna Maria, does that sound right?
I don't think strike it. It just remove the portion that says we have to come back to DAC. We're happy to work with staff to redesign that.
That's the entire condition. That's the entire condition is to come back to DAC. So it's essentially striking 4.
So
I
yeah.
have a problem with the discussion. It sounds.
I will
You could just
recommend
delete the
them-
first sentence and just
Yeah,
say
I
staff
will-
recommends the following improvements, and then we bring those two back. Or we address these internally.
Yeah, or we can, or Brian, if it is the final design of the Republic Space shall be work with the staff and maintain the 2 recommendations, but not mention that it has to be brought back to the board.
Okay, got it.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Nadir. Okay, so I think we've gone through all the comments. Okay, well, if there's not anything else, would anyone like to make a motion or other?
Motion to approve with amended condition.
Second.
Okay, second. Which condition was that, Brian?
It was condition 4.
Oh, okay. 4 and then,
Brian, I'm sorry, you will have to read the script.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I just granting the special review. I move that Downtown Action Committee approve the special review for DAC case number 21-01 as listed in the staff report dated May 12th, 2021 with the following conditions. 1, additional landscape shall be proposed to screen the garage facade. Additional landscape may include sable palms or other palms between the trees and a vine, such as creeping fig, to grow on the garage facade wall. 2, sidewalk elevation shall be maintained across the driveways. 3, the building design shall be modified as follows. A, increase the height of the corner elements to provide some variation on the roof line. B, refine the design of the pedestrian bridge to make it a neighborhood entry feature. C, study the ground floor treatment of the Dixie Highway facade to enhance the pedestrian quality of the building and ensure success of the retail commercial spaces on the ground floor. D, additional landscape shall be installed adjacent to the mechanical room located along Dixie Highway on the south building. E, replace the ground floor louvers in the garage for decorative grills. 4, the final design of the 3 public open spaces shall be worked through with staff. Staff recommends the following improvements. A, special consideration shall be made to the integration of the south public open space with the existing Lofton Place public open space. B, FPL transformers shall be relocated. The motion is based upon a determination of the testimony presented at this hearing, along with the application submitted, constitute a preponderance of competent substantial evidence. The board hereby makes findings of fact that the special review requested satisfies all the criteria of the City of West Palm Beach zoning land development regulations. Article 2, Section 94-52, parens B, parens 2.
Okay, thanks. And under discussion, if it's agreeable with the board, I was hoping to add to the architectural recommendations an item F under 3 that would be to reconsider the color palette to a lighter color palette and reconsider alternatives to the vinyl wrap, or at least restudy that with staff.
I'll accept that as an amendment to the condition.
Okay, anyone else? A motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, if not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposition? None? Okay, good. Thanks, y'all. Nice project, and appreciate your working with staff on this one.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good luck.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, move on to code revision cases. Item 3, case number PB 1882A, city initiated request. And if we could kindly have staff presentation for this.
Mr. Chair, this is not a city-initiated request. It's a privately initiated, so the applicant is here and they're gonna start with the presentation, and after that, well, no, sorry.
He
The
called
number
1882.
Yes, the number 3, staff is requesting continuance of that case.
Oh,
The
okay.
case number PB 1882A.
Okay, so noted. That's continued. Do we need to vote on that? Stacy?
Continue to a date certain.
It'll be the next meeting in June. June 12th.
Stacy, do we need to make a vote on that?
Yeah, if they don't want to re-advertise.
Okay, could someone just make a motion to move that case number to the June hearing?
Motion to move.
June 9.
June 9th, yes.
Motion to move the case to June 9th hearing.
Okay, second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay. Opposed? None? Okay, so noted. Move to June 9th. Okay, then we go to item 4, CRC number 21-03. That's a request by Mr. Harvey Oyer, Schutz and Brown, on behalf of Linear Group LLC. And if we could kindly have the applicant make their presentation.
Hello. Hi, good morning. This is Diego from Linear.
Morning.
Yep, gotcha.
You have Max Ducharme as well, and our colleague George.
Attorney Weinger, would you swear them in?
Just a code revision case, so no swearing in is necessary.
Okay.
Should we get started?
You can start, Diego.
Okay, great. So I'm Diego. We're a Miami-based developer. I'm one of the partners at Miami-based developer Linear Group. We're very thankful for the opportunity to present to DAC, and we're very excited about our project. We have a few ongoing projects in South Florida. I think in Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and this is our first project in West Palm, and hopefully won't be our last. We're very bullish on what's going on in West Palm Beach, and we share the board's long-term vision for downtown, and we're looking to be in this market for a while. So with that, I'll get started with our request for a zoning text amendment. So to give you a little bit of background, the site that we're currently controlling is this site. It's literally the first site that you see when you get off of the Brightline station. It's QBD 1025. It's a challenging site because we have the assisted living facility directly to the west. We have the FPL station directly to the north. We have Parkline directly to the south. But nonetheless, it's a very important site because it's literally what the first thing you see when you arrive to West Palm Beach via the Brightline, which we think is going to be a very used and popular train station long term, especially as it makes its way to Orlando and Tampa. And on top of that, it's a pretty tight lot. It's approximately 0.8 acres. So it makes it a little challenging and costly to develop on that parcel. And it's also an assemblage that we put together. So there's two different sellers here that we were able to get to agree on terms to sell to us. But what that means is that, number one, we had to pay a good premium for the site, but two, that it's unlikely to be developed if we unfortunately were to be unsuccessful with it, because the two sellers do have very different expectations. In terms of what we're requesting two amendments to the zoning code. Number one, it's to reduce the minimum room size for boutique hotels. And number two, to allow boutique hotels to be eligible for the TDR incentives, which only apply to full service hotels and Class A office right now. One note, the staff did ask that the zoning change also, or the proposed amendment, also apply to QBD 825, which we'll see in the map here. So the QBD 1025, which is where a lot sits, the only two parcels or blocks in downtown that have that zoning code are where we are, and then this lot here, which is the courthouse parking lot, which is unlikely to be redeveloped, and then QBD 825 are these three series of lots to the south, blocks to the south. So again, going a little bit into our first request to reduce the minimum room size for boutique hotels, the main rationale that we think this is necessary is, to be honest, we do think 325 square feet is a bit of an outdated standard. We're requesting to reduce it to 275, which is still generous. And this is especially true because boutique hotels, the main amenity that boutique hotels have are the city. So you're expected to spend less time in your room and spend more time at local bars, restaurants, getting to see the city. So a lot of brand standards, a lot of brands will not even consider our project for their brands at room sizes over 300 square feet because they just don't have the programming for those rooms. We're going to share a little bit about all the trends that we're seeing. Which, this is an article by the New York Times that talks about micro hotels. We're not trying to put a micro hotel there. We're also trying to be a little bit more conservative and stay at 275 square feet. But you can see in some of these publications that room size is going as small as 200, 170. Boxy, which is very going from the area, is 180 square feet. They actually were not even about our project the square footage is that we're talking about. And this is consistent across the United States. So as cities become more hotspots, the room size has been trending smaller and smaller.
Diego, maybe it's just worth noting, right, that 275 feet is considerably larger than what's posted here as a micro hotel. So we are not considering a micro hotel concept, which is below the 200 feet. So there are a few tiers of of hotel unit sizes that are being considered by the likes of Hilton and Marriott. And the boutique hotel is kind of in the middle size for their current trend.
Great. Yeah, that's a very helpful addition. In terms of the zoning code or the change in the zoning code that we're proposing, what we're asking is really just to change 325 to 275 under the definition of a boutique hotel, and that'll allow us to incorporate that into our project. As far as the second request that we have, it's to change the zoning code to also allow us to develop a boutique hotel. So instead of the way it's currently written, the TDR incentive program only applies to Class A office or full service hotel for a lot of reasons. We think, number one, that West Palm Beach has enough full service hotels. We don't think it has a comparable product to what we're looking to develop. So boutique hotel is something that's not in downtown that we think will be primarily a great amenity to 360 Rosemary and all of the office tenants to the south with F&B components, and also it'll be very inviting for people getting off the Bright Line to see something that's a little bit more lifestyle driven, more experiential. So we're requesting to make that change, as well as in this table to eliminate the word full service and just have hotels, so that boutique hotels can also qualify under these conditions. So we comply with all the standards for a zoning text amendment, and the staff agrees, and that's why they've indicated the recommendation to approve the zoning text amendment. We're asking the DAC board to approve these two changes so that we can move forward with our project. Again, it's to reduce the minimum room size for a boutique hotel from 325 square feet down to 275 square feet, and to allow the TBR incentives for a boutique hotel as well. We're obviously very early in the design process, because we're looking to get this zoning change prior to us really developing a full schematic and design for the project. So, but still, we wanted to share a little bit about how we're thinking about the project. It's going to be, your current programming is for 180 multifamily units and 132 hotel keys. Given it's the lot directly across from the Bright Line station, we really think it's going to be a welcome mat for people getting off of the Bright Line, and we think that it'll really help connect what's currently the Rosemary district with Clematis Street, which now there's a bit of a gap, especially in this area with the Bright Line station there. We really think the development of this lot will make everything much more pedestrian friendly, and to that we are trying to line up all of the east-facing portion of our facade and part of the north-facing portion with active uses. So we do want it to be very lively and provide some amenity to the neighborhood and to the Bright Line station, because there's currently nothing. If you get to the Bright Line station a few minutes early to catch your train, it's really not a place where you can have a bite or a drink prior to catching the train. So we're looking to place a hotel restaurant facing directly to the Bright Line station, and we think that's going to help bring a lot of life to the area. I think that's it in terms of our presentation. We're happy to answer any questions, and we thank you for your time.
Thank you, Diego. Staff, would you be following up now?
Yes, I have a presentation to share also. A little bit of background about this area. The QBD incentive was created in 2009 when we went through the process of update the downtown master plan. And its intention was specifically to fill what it was known at that time as the hole in the donut. The incentive basically encompassed the properties between Rosemary and Quadrille, Gardenia, and Datura, and then has an additional block on the north side of Banyan Boulevard. But the big hole in the donut was identified as the area between Clematis and that will connect basically Clematis Street with Rosemary Square, what was previously City Place. So the incentive was drafted as an added development capacity to lure developments to come into this area that was basically just some small warehouses and vacant sites, and allow an increase of FAR from 1.75 to 2.75, that was the base zoning, to 6.5, and a substantial increase in height from the 8 or 10 stories that was the base zoning to 25 stories. The incentive was crafted specifically to provide that additional height and FAR for Class A office uses and full service hotels that were identified back then in 2009 as some uses that were needed in the downtown, were desperately needed in the downtown. We didn't have any projects going through with that type of uses, and the intention was to incentivize it. The program was drafted also at that point in a way that the city will offer the developers that came with those uses TDRs free from the city pool of TDRs. So they didn't have to pay in the private market for the acquisition of the additional development capacity. Subsequently to that, there were some amendments, and we allowed residential users to use incentive with a lower FAR. They were allowed to go only up to 4.5 FAR. But the goal of the incentive was, in essence, the Class A office and the full service hotel. Since then, since 2009, I think I can say the vision of the original PMP update has been materialized. As you know, we have not only the Parkline, which is that was built, but we have the 360 Rosemary office building that is almost completed. It will open at the end of May or beginning of June, and is fully leased. So creating the first Class A office in the downtown area that has been built since 2008. And is also next to the brand new Brightland train station that was not included on the 2009. It was not even thought about it in 2009, but has fit perfectly with the vision of this core concentrated high intensity development area. So having said this, and with this background in mind, when the applicant submitted their request in February, staff was already working on some code changes to the existing incentives for the downtown. The thought at that point, because the office use and the hotel uses was not a use that we needed to incentivize any longer. The city is working now on trying to change the incentives that are offered in the downtown to promote the construction of workforce housing. The intention is specifically for this district was to remove the specific calling out of particular uses in this district, and that were allowed to obtain city-owned TDRs at no charge. So the intention was basically to remove the requirement for Class A office and full service hotel as a requirement to be able to use the additional development capacity and height offered by the incentive. And at the same time, the intention is to create a larger workforce housing incentive throughout the downtown that will require the construction of residential workforce housing residential units for any project developing residential in the downtown when they use incentives. So the amendments to create that workforce housing incentive are already on the way. You saw last month, 2 months ago, the city presented in front of you the comprehensive plan amendments that were associated with that program. We already presented those changes to the City Commission for approval on first reading, and they were sent to the state for approval. So we're moving ahead with those amendments to modify the whole TDR program and create the workforce housing incentive. However, drafting the details of these incentives are taking a little longer. They are very specific and complicated, so we are having meetings with developers to discuss the percentages of for housing and the details of the program. So in this case, as we were moving parallel with the applicant in the sense that we were removing the restrictions for workforce house for Class A and full service hotels, so they were able to go ahead and build the boutique hotel. But as the workforce housing incentive is taking a little bit longer, the applicant decided to move ahead with their original submittal of amending specifically the existing program to allow boutique hotels within the Ecuador business district. So as I say, the applicant's request is consistent with the proposed changes that are currently being drafted by staff. So what is going to happen is at this point, they're moving ahead with allowing the boutique hotel. And then in the next months, we will move ahead with the changes to the workforce housing that will totally refine the Ecuador business district incentive and remove any restrictions for Class A office or hotels in general. So we're going to kind of go to kind of a staggered process, but at the end, the ultimate draft language will allow basically boutique hotels as we allow full service hotel or office uses in that area, as the city was looking to open the incentives for all the uses. And the reason for this is, as I mentioned before, because the city does not consider at this point, under the current conditions of the downtown, that the restrictions to promote specifically Class A office uses or full service hotels are needed. As you know, we have the 360 Rosemary project that is a Class A office under construction, almost to be completed. We have one West Palm that is right now under construction. And we have two additional Class A office projects under review right now. The one Flagler that you saw earlier today, and the West Palm Point that is going to be located at the side between Pedro and Dixie, Okeechobee and Lakeview, that is currently under review and will go to the City Commission probably in July. We also have had two hotels completed in the recent last year. The Canopy Hotel opened last year and the Ben Hotel opened last year also. And we have one additional hotel under construction for the one West Palm. So we don't think it's necessary to incentivize these users any longer to attract these particular uses for downtown, but that doesn't mean that we don't want those uses. So the proposed changes by the applicant are consistent with the goals of the downtown. They will be able to fill the same hole in the donut that was suggested, and will be an attractive use to be across the train station on that area. Regarding the specific changes that the applicant is proposing for the boutique size, the boutique hotel room size, staff does not have any staff supports that amendment. The applicant has provided extensive background to explain how the rooms are being reduced lately. We are seeing this trend even with residential units, so we are not opposed to it. And if they feel like they can build a hotel and it can work in an urban context with that size, we don't have any opposition to that. Regarding, again, as I mentioned, to allow boutique hotels eligible for the Ecuador Business District incentive, staff is supportive of that language. However, the language will still states that the city-owned TDRs may be transferred at no cost as an incentive. However, it has been stated to the applicant that at this point, the city does not have TDRs to offer. So the language still says that the developer is allowed to acquire TDRs in the private market according to the corresponding building requirement table. So if the applicant decides to move ahead with the project, most likely the city will not have any TDRs to offer for this particular project. So they will have to go to the private market and acquire the TDRs in the private market as it is allowed for the current incentive. So that's something that is by the language will state says that the city may offer TDRs free of charge, because the city does not have at this point any available TDRs to offer. That will not be able to, the applicant will not be able to request those TDRs from this. Based on that, the language that you saw on the staff report is the changes that staff work to modify the language and clarify the intent. So it's simplified from the language proposed by the applicant, but the applicant has agreed with the modifications presented by staff. Staff recommends approval of code revision case 2103 based upon the finding that the proposed amendment complies with all the amendment standards found in section 9432 of the zoning and land development regulations. The proposed changes will be presented to the planning board at the May 18 planning board meeting, and it will be subsequently presented to the city commission in June. That concludes the staff presentation.
Okay, thank you, Anna Maria. John, is there any public commentary on this case?
Mr. Chair, no one's indicated interest in public comment now.
Okay, thank you. We'll close the public discussion portion, then move on to any questions or comments from board members. Gregory?
No comments, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Yeah, Brian?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I want to commend staff, Rick and Anna Maria, for working with the applicant to bring something like this on and this refinement in the code. You all know on the front line, and Anna Maria, you said it best, in 2009, 12 years ago, no one would have envisioned Brightline. And this, refinement in the code, changing the hole in the donut from sprinkles to cinnamon sugar, it makes a lot of sense as the downtown develops and new uses come in. These guys know their business, they understand the trends, and your code is allowing that flexibility to kind of wrap around these trends. I think it's a great idea, and it's going to help that area right in front of Brightline to kind of change the way it needs to change to respond to it. I love the idea of the welcoming mat to people coming off and having that kind of use right there, especially if there's ground floor activity envisioned, a cafe or something like that where you can interact. I just think that's very European. It's tried true and proven. And I think this is the kind of stuff that has to help fill in those final remaining parcels that need a little help along the way. And this is a tough parcel. I mean, I don't think it was emphasized, but there's an FPL substation right across the street from it. They've got the whole back end of the Brightline building behind it. So it is kind of hedged in. They got the seniors next door to them. So tough stuff. So I commend staff for really kind of bringing this along and working with them to make it happen. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Well said. Stephen, anything?
Look, reiterate Brian's comments. I think this is good adaptability to what the market's demanding in downtown right now, and I think this is just that continued evolution of really trying to convert that balance of we've all seen it over the years here of so much residential development happening downtown, and now we're starting to see that balance shift a little bit, and that need to be adaptable. I think staff should be commended for that, and likewise for working with the applicant and identifying those appropriate areas where we can make changes to the code to accommodate some of these things. I mean, we've all seen the recent boutique hotels downtown. We've seen the great success they bring. They bring people onto the streets, and that just converts to additional dollars into businesses, and again, just that added diversity of use in the downtown area. So I think this is a very logical change to the code. So I fully support. No further comments.
Perfect. Thanks. Brad, you got any comments?
No comment at this time.
All right, great. Thanks. Let's see. Stephen, Michael?
Just ditto to Brian and Stephen's comments, and to staff for the flexibility. I spend a lot of time at the rooftop at the Canopy Hotel and at Elizabetta's and at Spruzo's. If I pronounce that right, I don't think I ever pronounced that right. But that street is there's no nice way to get to the Brightline station from a pedestrian standpoint on either Detour or Ivernia. I mean, there's just there's a big high rise with the parking garage, and if you come down Detour, I might even go as far as to saying it doesn't feel particularly safe because there's just no street activation, and I would love to see a boutique hotel go there with a ground street or street level restaurant and public open space. I've been when we had the opportunity to take the Bright Line, there is a little bit of a cafe inside the Bright Line, but it's nothing as particularly interesting. I guess I can put it that way. So I would much rather be sitting at a cafe across the Bright Line station outside as I wait to go on a trip. And I think it's a great project, and I would love to see it come to fruition. So kudos to the developer and to the staff, and I can't wait to see it move forward.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.
Nick, you got any additional stuff?
No comment. Appreciate it and agree with the proposed change.
I think we got everybody. I just reiterate, great to see the cooperation of public-private sectors. It'll be a great project, so thank you all. Anyone like to make a motion?
Motion to approve. I move that Downtown Action Committee recommend approval for CRC case number 20-03. This motion is based upon the factual testimony presented, the staff report, and the findings that the proposed amendment complies with all the amendment standards found in section 94-32 of the zoning and land development regulations.
Okay, motion second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Nope, seeing none, passes unanimously. Good luck, guys. Great project, and thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, appreciate it. Perfect, that's it for today's cases. Any unfinished business, anyone? Any new business? Anna Marie, I just had one comment, just seeing just the amount of new development, and that one case we had with the Lofton building, and a lot of similarities to that Broadstone Soleil project. I'm sure you guys sort of are cognizant of not wanting to have too many buildings that seem to be substantially similar to one another. So I just throw that out there as food for thought as you see all these new projects come across your tables. But other than that, anyone else, any other general comments?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, real fast. There's a lot of new materials coming online, and when we see garages being screened by perforated aluminum and whatnot, I mean, those would seem a little hardier. But what I'm worried about is, I think, and Rick, you can obviously take this for whatever it's worth, I'm thinking that we should be a little more stringent on conditions that start to have the applicant put a little more into maintenance in the future if we're dealing with materials that we're not 100% sure how they're going to, last over time. I mean, back in the day, it was canvas canopies, and sure enough, 3-5 years later, the canvas canopy looks like it's completely bleached out on any given project, and then no one's, unless someone really cares, they'll go back and replace them and whatnot. But in either that, or unless they're kicked by code or someone comes and complains, I mean, we're getting into materials now like wraps and vinyls, and South Florida, everything's going to fade at some point. And I just think that we should be making sure that there's some kind of agreement to a maintenance program that it holds the feet to the fire. If you're going to use funky materials, you're going to stand behind them. And when they start to go south, you got to step up and fix them. And that way, maybe they won't do wraps. If they know every 3 years they're going to have to, rewrap it or pull it off and go through a big maintenance thing, they may think about going with hardier materials. And that was a lot of jurisdictions that I go before. A lot of people they don't accept canvas awnings. They want a hard awning, and I get it because of the historical precedents where people will let them go to the point where it looks ratty. And that's why I'm kind of asking the questions of the architects, bringing them through. Have you used it before? And if you're just starting with this stuff, is there a track record that we can go back to say, yeah, it'll look good in 5 years. It's bulletproof. Great, no problem then. But if they're not being held to that standard, how are we going to make sure that 5 years from now, 10 years from now, they're going to do the right thing?
Yeah, point well taken, Brian, but keep in mind, we also have the code enforcement arm too. So if that material starts to degrade or start to look bad, certainly we have no qualms about citing the development or the owner and making sure that gets replaced or properly addressed.
Right. I mean, is code, let me put it this way, it's obviously subjective. I mean, if a code enforcement officer is driving around, he looks up at a building and it's got some faded thing, is he going to say, hey, I'm going to, or does he take it to you and inform you of it, and then zoning is aware of it and they can let the owner know? How does that work typically?
Yeah, the coordination is very good. I mean, we work very closely with code. Code used to be under me very recently to move to police. They have not physically left. They're right next door to our building division. So in a situation like that, 9 times out of 10, I suspect it probably would be a complaint that would come to me or to Anna, and then we'd ask a code officer to go out and look at it. We'd probably go out and look at it ourselves. And then if we saw that it was in violation, we'd ask the code officer, or in some cases, a building inspector, to issue a violation notice.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Thanks, Rick. Anyone else? Any other comments in general? No? All right. Well, I guess that'll be it. We'll conclude and adjourn today's meeting. Thanks, staff. Everyone else for
everybody.
being here. Thanks,
Thank
John,
you
for
all.
making the Zoom. Hopefully this will be our last Zoom. We'll see. It'd be nice to see you all in person again.
I
Yeah,
think
have
we're
a
really
great.
next
Take
month.
care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank
Next
you.
month,
Thanks,
let's do it. Thank you.